Amber Nicole Thurman should still be alive today. Amber should be 31 years old, making new memories with her son as he enters a new school year and makes new friends. She should be hanging out with her best friend, Rikaria Baker, and posting selfies on Instagram. She should be celebrating her new nursing degree. But instead, in 2022, Amber Nicole Thurman was allowed to die by a fully equipped hospital that had all the knowledge, all the skill, all the well-trained medical professionals to save her life. But instead, these professionals let Amber die slowly. They let her deteriorate for hours as her body was increasingly poisoned. They let her blood pressure drop. They let her breathing quicken. They let her organs fail. They let her mother sit desperately in the waiting room. They did all this because the simple, routine procedure that would have saved Amber's life is the same one used in abortions, which had just been outlawed. So after 20 hours of agony in the hospital, coming on top of days of hidden cramping and bleeding at home, after complications from a legal abortion, coming on top of weeks of stress and scrambling to travel out of state to get that abortion, which should have been easy and should have been easy to follow up with abortion care when the complications arose. After all of this, Amber Thurman was dead. She became the first woman to be confirmed dead as a cause of abortion restriction since Roe v. Wade was overturned. But she is certainly not the only woman to have died, and she will not be the last. I want you to look at Amber. Now, who killed Amber Nicole Thurman? The obvious answer is the Christian fascists on the Supreme Court who overturned women's right to abortion. Who killed Amber? The obvious answer is that fascist pig hater of women, Donald Trump, who made appointing anti-abortion ghouls to the high court a cornerstone of his presidency. Who killed Amber? The obvious answer is the Christian fascists who banned abortion in Georgia, but also the entire so-called pro-life movement that has spent decades fetishizing fetal tissue while demonizing and shaming women. This Christian fascist American Taliban that has bombed clinics and killed doctors and passed female enslaving abortion bans and is still fighting to take this further. Yes, they all killed Amber Thurman. But they are not the only ones responsible for Amber's death. The Democrats also killed Amber Nicole Thurman. And I don't care how many of them decide to say her name and try to use her death to get you to vote for them. These Democrats also killed Amber. These Democrats have spent decades ceding the moral high ground to Christian fascists, implying that there's something wrong with abortion by insisting that it should be safe, legal, and rare.
Our vision should be of an America where abortion is safe and legal, but rare.
Going back really at least 15 years, in talking about abortion being safe, legal, and rare. And by rare, I mean rare.
These Democrats repeatedly pimp off abortion rights to get you to vote for them, and then drop it the second they are in office.
Well, the first thing I do as president is sign the Freedom of Choice Act. That's the first thing that I do. The Freedom of Choice Act is not my highest legislative priority.
And as Bob Avakian sharply pointed out recently, when abortion rights were clearly on the Supreme Court's chopping block back in 2022, the Democrats refused to mobilize people to take to the streets in massive protests. They refused to declare that there would be no business as usual unless abortion rights were preserved. Instead, these Democrats attacked, and they used their so-called progressive forces tied to them to attack Rise Up for Abortion Rights, an organization and movement which I initiated together with others, which was actually mobilizing tens of thousands to stand up and fight. And now, as Bob Avakian recently put it,
now the Democrats are once again insisting that voting for them is the only means of restoring the right to abortion. But the record of the Democrats makes clear that they are not willing to carry through a real fight for this right, especially if such a fight would threaten the stability of the rule of the capitalist imperialist system.
But that still is not all. Everyone who keeps going along with this war on women also bears responsibility for Amber's death. Yes, I am talking about the medical professionals who let Amber die because they didn't want to risk prosecution. Well, they should have done the fucking procedure and fought it out in court if it came to that. But I also want to talk about you. And I want to talk about the choices that you are confronted with. Look, radical change is coming. The old order is not holding. The overturning of abortion rights and Amber's death is part of that. And the future is either going to be far worse, murderously reactionary, or it's going to be revolutionary and emancipating. Things are going up for grabs, and you are confronted with a choice, and what you do can make all the difference. If you keep going along with the notion that the only meaningful way to act against this growing atrocity is through the system's elections, you are paving the way for the worst. This system is not the best that is possible, and it is not permanent. Through a revolution, a real revolution that overthrows this system, we could bring into being a new society where not only is abortion guaranteed, on demand and without apology, but where the unleashed fury of millions and millions of women against thousands and thousands of years of degradation, humiliation, of brutality and insult is a driving force, not only in digging up and overcoming their own oppression, but in overcoming slavery in every form, putting an end to all oppression and exploitation based on race, sex, gender, and class, bringing into being a world where women, where all people can finally breathe free. A world where people will look back in horror at the needless death of Amber Thurman and her son, who was left behind. This is possible. There is a blueprint for this new society right here in this Constitution for the new Socialist Republic in North America that Bob Avakian authored. Read this Constitution. Talk about it with others. Now is not the time to be choosing between outright theocratic, women-hating fascists on the one side and mainstream imperialists who conciliate with those fascists, all while bragging about being the real best enforcers of this system's murderous domination around the world on the other. Now is the time to seize on the sharp divides at the top of society, to fight for the emancipating future that we really deserve. Standing up and waging struggle to defend women's rights and lives outside the killing confines of this system's elections, and urgently digging into and spreading the vision of a real revolution and the leadership that is being provided for this revolution every week by Bob Avakian at Bob Avakian Official. Now is the time to be working with the RevCom Corps for the emancipation of humanity, to build up the organized forces to lead this revolution when the chance opens up. And this chance could come soon. Right now, you have the chance to contribute to a future where never again does a woman have to die the way Amber did, and where millions of women don't have to live with the threat of that simply because they want to choose the course of their own lives. But if you stay confined to this system's choices, I'm going to be blunt, then you too will bear the responsibility for the deaths of the many, many more Ambers and all the other horrors that will come.